Hello my dear friends. دلوقتي وقتنا عشان نكمل الدرس اللي أخدناه المرة اللي فاتت في مادة الرياضيات للصف الخامس الابتدائي تحت رعاية وإشراف وزارة التربية والتعليم. Our last lesson was the probability or specifically the experimental probability. And now we will move to the other type of probability, which is the theoretical probability. Okay? So before we start with this part of the lesson, I need just to remind you with some of the facts that we discussed last time to be able to continue with this, okay? So, again, what is the definition of probability, or what is the probability أو الاحتمالية? It is the likelihood that an event will occur. اللي هو قد إيه ممكن أحصل على الحدث ده أو إنه يحصل الشيء ده. Okay? Again, the probability can be written as a fraction or a decimal or a percentage. As we said last time, I'll just remind you لأنه دي حاجات ممكن نستخدمها كتير بتسهل علينا without using long division to get the answer. When I have 1/4, it will be equal to 0.25 or 25%. 1/2 is equals to 0.5 or 50%. Then I have 3/4, which is 3/4, equals to 0.75 or 75%. And last but not least, the 1 is equals to 100%, and this is what we called before a certain or a sure event. Now, more with the related facts, the probability is always, remember this very well, we can meet it in the multiple choice or the complete questions. Probability is always between 0 and 1, okay? The probability of a 0, it means that this event will never happen. It's an impossible event. Okay? Example, the probability that I fly to the moon. Okay? The probability of 1, it means that this event will always happen. It's a sure or certain event. While between 0 and 1, it means that it is a possible event. It can happen. Okay? So here, again, the terms to be used. The experiment, it's an activity involving a chance of occurrence is tossing a coin, but this time we're not going to use it. Trial, each repetition or observation of a coin, each time you toss a coin is a trial. Event is a set of one or more outcomes. Getting a tail every time you toss a coin is called an event. The outcome, which is the possible result of an event, as when I toss or flip a coin and I get a head, this is called an outcome. Now the sample space, pay attention, we didn't use this in experimental probability, but we have to use it every time we get a question or we have a theoretical probability to find out. This is very important in this part of the lesson, the sample space. It is the list of all possible outcomes. As in rolling the die, it is the set of elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So, in the theoretical probability, sample space D شيء أساسي to be used. We have to use it every time before we answer our questions. And the random experiment is an experiment that has no fixed results. Okay, now let's start this part. It's theoretical probability. Theoretical probability, it is unlike experimental probability. It is based on a rule or what might happen or what should happen. يعني في الاكسبيرمنتال probability احنا ده كان fact، كانت actual thing، حاجة فعلية بتحصل. أنا عندي experiment بعملها باخد منها results أو outcomes. while in theoretical probability هي دي حاجة بديهية اللي المفروض يحصل، إنما ما بعملش أي experiments من أي نوع. أوكي؟ دي حاجة نظرية اللي هو الرول بتقول أو المنطق بيقول، إنما مش بعمل experiments فيها. أوكي؟ The probability of an event, probability of E, which is probability of event, equals number of favorable outcomes over the number of possible outcomes. اوكي؟ يعني هنا عشان انا مش مؤكد عندي ايه الاوتكمز اللي بتطلع، ولكن المنطق بيقول انه في certain outcomes بتطلع، دي اسمها ال possible outcomes. طيب والنمبر of favorable outcomes دي اللي هو النمبر of outcomes اللي انا حصلت عليها لما حاولت. اوكي؟ او لما خمنت، لما سألت وقلت ايه اللي ممكن يحصل فخمنت ان ده ممكن يحصل، فيبقى ده النمبر of favorable outcomes. عشان get the probability of an event بعمل the number of favorable outcomes divided by the number of possible outcomes. Its definition is finding the probability of events that come from a sample space of outcomes having equal chance of occur. لو خدتوا بالكم كلمة sample space ظهرت هنا، عشان كده احنا قلنا انه sample space لازم هنستعملها في ال theoretical probability. يعني انا هنا لازم بشوف ايه هي ال events that might occur وبكتبهم in a sample space او in a set، وبشوف اللي حصل بقى او اللي ممكن يحصل ساعتها، او الايفنتس دي ايه منهم اللي ممكن يحصل. We have a question to clarify or to explain more this idea. Find the probability of rolling a 5 on a fair die. A fair die is the die اللي هي الزهر زي ما قلنا في ال experimental probability. الزهر already أنا عارفة إنه عنده 1 2 3 4 5 6، هي دي ال 6 faces بتاعت الزهر. فدي it's a rule، يعني it's a fact. مش محتاجة أعمل experiment عشان أعرف هم عندهم كام face. أوكي؟ So لو أنا دلوقتي I roll a die، إيه ال probability إنه number 5 هو اللي يطلع لي؟ هو أنا عندي أكتر من فيس فيهم النمبر 5 في الداي؟ أكيد لأ. يبقى هنا الداي دي البروبابيلتي إن هي ال5 هي اللي تطلع لي، إنها تطلع مرة واحدة ما دمت أنا برول ذا داي once. ما دام برول ذا داي مرة واحدة يبقى البروبابيلتي إنه نمبر 5 تطلع لي هي مرة واحدة. بس قبل ما أحل الكويستشن أنا لازم الأول أطلع السامبل سبيس بتاعتي، لأنه لازم هستخدمها في getting my answer. يبقى هنا في solution first I get my sample space. Okay, and we said that we have 6 faces for a die. I have 1 2 3 4 5 and 6 when I roll it. So the probability is okay 1 over 6 والsample space بتاعتي أو S الsample space أو S لازم to be written here 1 2 3 4 5 6 between the braces, and then I get my answer اللي هي probability of this event equals 1 over 6. عشان ال5 ممكن تجيلي مرة واحدة بس من ال6 faces الموجودين عندي أو ال6 elements بتوع الsample space الموجودة عندي. Okay? Okay, so we'll move to another example. In an experiment of rolling a die once, pay attention, I roll the die once. Calculate the probability of getting sample space 1 2 3 4 5 6 زي ما احنا قلنا these are the faces. يبقى the number of all the outcomes, or the total number of outcomes is 6. So that's why I said we have to get this. That's why I said we have to get this before we start, because we will use it. So here, the first thing to find is what is the probability of getting an even number? What is the probability of getting an even number? طيب دلوقتي أنا عندي الاليمنتس أو الفيسز بتاعت الداي 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. اوكي؟ طيب كم فيس فيهم عنده even number? Let's see. ال1, is it an even number? No, it's an odd number. 2, even, then I will take the 2. 3, is it odd? No, then I will put it away. Okay? This, the 4, it's an even number. Okay? The 5, we put it away, it's odd. Then the 6 is even. So I have, at the end, I have 3 even numbers. Okay? So the even numbers that I can get from rolling a die, they are the set of elements 2, 4, and 6, and the number of the outcome of the event is 3. طيب عايزة أطلع بقى بالprobability اللو اللي احنا قلناه لما شرحنا قبل. قلنا إنه ال P equal ال N over ال T. Okay? The number of outcomes of an event over total number of outcomes, وهنا هو symbolized أو السيمبل بتاعه ال S. Okay? So it's here P equal 3 اللي هو the number of outcomes that I can get. Okay? Divided ال S اللي هي the number of total outcomes. So it will be 3 over 6. And I said before that we can't leave a fraction like that. I have to put it in its simplest form. So here the 3 and the 6 both are divisible by 3. So I divide both of them by 3, and the answer will be 1 over 2 or 0.5 or 50%. Okay? Now, if I want a number less than 7, a number that is less than 7, لو بصينا على السامبل سبيس بتاعي اللي مكتوب فوق هلاقي انه كل النمبرز بتاعتي are less than 7. يعني ده معناه انه اكيد when I roll the die لازم هيطلع لي number less than 7. يبقى ده ايه؟ ده certain event او sure event. لازم when I roll the die هيطلع لي حاجة من دي. فيبقى على طول it's 6 out of 6 لأنه أنا أي فيس من دول بيبقى أقل من ال 7. So it's 6 over 6 or 1. Certain event as we said before, certain event لازم هحصل على واحدة من ال outcomes دي. طيب if I want a number greater than 7, طب الداي دي فيها أي number greater than 7؟ لا، هي أصلا أكبر number فيها في 6 dots. الفيس أكبر فيس اللي فيه 6 dots. طيب يعني أنا أصلا ولا عندي 7 ولا عندي number أكبر من 7. يبقى when I roll the die can I get any number bigger than 7؟ طبعا لا. يبقى ده event will never happen. It's an impossible event. So it's 0 over 6 because it will never happen, and 0 over 6 is equal to 0, which is an impossible event. Okay? Now let's move to an example on the board, and then we'll come back to the rest of more examples. Okay guys, if we spin a spinner as we see here on the board 120 times, and I want to predict the following. First, the number of times the spinner will land onto. Let's check first. I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I have the 2 only one time. So the number of times the spinner will land on 2. First, I have to get the probability of getting a 2. And then I will multiply it by the 120 times to get the number of times the spinner will land on 2. Okay? So here, as I said before, I have to start by, okay? As I said before, I have to start by writing the sample space. Okay? So the sample space here is the set of elements that I have in the spinner, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and S equals to 6 because I have 6 elements to do. Okay? I have 6 elements to deal with. So here I will do this. Now, N equals 6 as I said. N equals 6 as I said. This is the number of events occurred, okay, or might occur. The total number of events that might occur. Now, the probability of landing on 2, as I said, I have the 2 one time only, so the probability of landing on 2 is 1 out of 6 اللي هم ال 6 possible outcomes that I can get. Okay, so now if I spin it 120 times, then I want to know how many times. I will multiply, as I said, the 120 times by the probability of landing on 2 اللي أنا لسه جايباها دلوقتي. So 120 times 1 over 6 equals 20 times. Okay? Divided 6 is 1 and divided 6 is 20. So 20 times 1 is 20 times. Okay? Type. What if the number of times the spinner will land on an even number is less than 6? Okay? عايزة أعرف the number of times the spinner will land on an even number but less than 6. يعني مش هاجي جنب ال 6. عندي 2 وعندي 4 is an even number وعندي 6 is an even number بس he said less than 6. يبقى مش هاجي خالص جنب ال 6 إنما هاخد ال 2 وال 4. Okay? So here it's 2 of 6. 2 from 6 possible outcomes. I have only 2 outcomes from 6 possible outcomes. So here I will multiply the 120 times the 2 over 6. Again, divided 6 is 1, divided 6 is 20. 20 times 2 is 40 times. Okay? So let's go back now to the rest of our exercises. In the opposite figure, the spinner is divided into 8 colored sections. Okay? I have 3 green sections, 2 blue sections, 2 yellow, and a red one. Okay? So, what is the probability that the spinner stops at? Red color. قبل ما بجاوب, again we said I have to know the S is equals to what? اللي هي number of possible outcomes here equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the number of possible outcomes بالنسبة لي أو number of S is 8. ليه؟ عشان أنا عندي 8 parts أو spinner is divided into 8 sections. Okay? طيب. The red color عندي كام section are colored in red؟ عندي واحد بس colored in red. So here the probability of stopping at or landing on a red section is 1 over 8. تمام? Now let's move to the second one. A black section. Do we have any black sections here? Of course not. Then this is an impossible event. So the answer will be 0 out of 8 or 0. Now, what is the probability of landing on a green section? As you see, I have 3 green sections. Then the probability of landing on a green section is 3/8. Now let's move to another type of question, which is complete. Okay, the first question, the probability of an event is always 0 or, do you remember the first fact that we took last time and at the beginning of this class? We said that probability of an event is always 0 or 1 or between 0 and 1, right? So now it's time to use this fact. So the probability of an event is always 0 or 1 or a number between 0 and 1. Okay? 0 is impossible event, 1 is a certain or a sure event, between 0 and 1 is a possible event. It can happen. Okay? Second question, an experiment that we don't know its certain outcome. We said that an experiment that we don't know its certain outcome is called a random experiment. So the answer here is a random experiment. The third question, the probability of getting a number less than 5 when a fair die is thrown once. When I have a die, I throw it once. What is the probability of getting the number 5? I have how many possible outcomes when I roll a die or throw a die? I have 6 possible outcomes. And what is the probability of the number 5 appears to me when I roll the die once? It can appear 1 time. So here the answer is going to be 1 over, I'm sorry, it's getting a number less than 5, not getting 5, less than 5. Okay, the numbers less than 5 are 4, 3, 2, and 1. So the probability of getting a number less than 5 when I roll a die is 4/6. Okay, letter D. The probability of an impossible event. It can never happen. It can never take place. So it will be 0. Now the last one, the opposite. The probability of a certain or a sure event is 1. Okay, now let's move to another question. I have here 2 examples, and I want you to tell me which one is experimental and which one is theoretical, and to give me the answer or the probability of this event to occur or happen or take place. Okay, the first one. May scored an A in 8 out of 10 of her tests. يبقى May, she had 8 tests and she's supposed to have 2 more. She's supposed to be having 10 tests or 10 exams. Okay, she has got A in the 8 tests that she has already taken. What is the probability that she will score an A in her next test? لو ركزنا هنا هناخد بالنا انه هي already بتعمل الامتحانات بتاعتها. يعني في حاجة actual، في حاجة فعلية بتحصل، مش بنخمن. هي already دخلت امتحانات، وفي الامتحانات اللي هي دخلتها ال8 دول هي she has got A in 8 of them وفاضل لها 2. يبقى على طول دي عندي experimental probability، عشان هنا في experiment حصلت، في هنا facts, and she has got A in 8 out of 10, so it's experimental and the probability is 8 out of 10. In its simplest form, it will be equal to 4 out of 5. The last one, or the second question, there are 5 small cats, 2 medium cats, and 3 big cats in the garden outside our house. What is the probability that the first cat that comes to play with you is a small one? أنت قاعد في garden و 5 small cats, 2 medium cats, and 3 big cats playing in a garden. وإيه probability إن واحدة منهم من الصغيرين هي اللي تيجي تلعب معاك الأول؟ في الأول طبعا دي theoretical لأنه دي ما فيش أي study تقول لي fact فعلية ليها أو حاجة actual هتحصل، ده تخمين، فدي هتبقى theoretical. هحسب الsample ال number of possible outcomes اللي هو عندي 5 and 2 and 3 which is 10. عندي كام small cat؟ عندي 5، يبقى ال probability of getting a small cat to play with me ال possible outcomes اللي ممكن تحصل 5 cats over 10 اللي هي ال all number of cats in the garden, and I simplify to its simplest form which is 1 over 2, then the answer will be 50 degrees. Okay guys, that's all for today. I was so glad to have you with me. Study well and see you next time.